Hi everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. We're back. It's a Grade 1 weekend with the Clarence House Chase and ultimately some pretty good races to get stuck into between Haydock and Ascot. Incidentally, we will be pausing again next week. It's a quiet week before a DRF special. That time of year is coming round again. So keep your eye out for that. That'll land in a couple of weeks' time. Steve Jones and Andrew Blair White join me today to preview the pick of the racing, which starts with the Clarence House. It's the 3:30 at Ascot. Don't forget to like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening. However you take in all of our content, best no-cost way of supporting the podcast. And the bonus code POD50 still exists to get 50 quid in free bets. The T's and C's are all there if you want to go and check those out on the website. All right, Clarence House then. So I'm the only one with a bet in the race, which is Gidley Park at 8.0, the outsider. But I've been talking for too long, so I'd rather hear another voice. You're a no bet, Steve Jones. Is that what's the reason you can't find an angle?
Well, because I think the most likely winner is Ilete Tomp. I think John Bon probably wants a bit further these days. And at the end of the day, the twice that they've met, John Bon and Ilete Tomp, then Ilete Tomp has thrashed John Bon really and has looked top class. So Thistleask has been brilliant since joining the Skeltons for next to nothing. I think he only costs 10 or 11 grand and is won 5 times, including a couple of grade 2s. So he's stepping up to the top company, which he deserves to do, but I can't see it. And you're going to tell us why Gidley Park's going to win.
I'm not going to tell you he's going to win. I was at Wincanton yesterday with Sam Turner, former colleague on these fine shores, and we had a sort of quick chat with Harry Fry and about the race, and I just think he is a big price. Like, obviously, I'm not going to say he's going to go and win, but can I see him beating Thistleask and John Bon? Yeah. I know I put John Bon up last time. I'm just not sure where we are with him. But as outsider of the bunch on what is going to be his favoured ground back over the minimum trip, he's just too big a price. I think he will shorten to around John Bon's price. I think there's every chance that'll happen. And I think 8.0 won't. I don't think he'll go off that. He's just got that feel of a shortener, and you never know. Like, I can't see him beating Ilete Tomp for obvious reasons, but I could see him potentially beating the other two. So I am happy to have an angle in the race on that at 8.0. Ultimately, if the price for me is too big, I'm going to have a little bit on it. So that's what I think. I think Sam agrees as well from talking to him yesterday. Andrew, nothing for you? Am I completely bonkers on Gidley?
Look, I can understand the angle of the horse is progressive. I suppose my worry is I think he's at his best when he's able to dictate and dominate fields, and he's not going to be able to do that with Thistleask in the race.
Do you think that's interesting? So how? Take me through they jump the first. What position are they all in?
Thistleask will be in front of Gidley Park with. I would say over the first fence, John Bon will be flat to the boards, if I'm being honest. I completely agree with Steve. I think he needs 2.5 miles now. Obviously, this is the race to come for because he's ran in this race so many times, but he was flat to the mat all the way at Sandown. And it wouldn't surprise me if Paul Townend is stone last on all 4 of them. He's probably the horse that's got the most tactical speed come the back end of races. And that was the reason I ended up with no bet. I think Ilete Tomp should very much confirm the form with John Bon from Sandown, and I think he's just a better type of horse than Thistleask and Gidley Park. I can understand your case of Gidley Park being a very good horse, and it wouldn't surprise me if he came second. I just worry that Thistleask will end up being a bit of a spoiler for him, and as a result, it's not even a kind of a race I'd want to be getting involved in without the favourite.
A quick line on Ilete Tomp for a champion chase. Which side of the fence are you on about, Cheltenham, not Cheltenham for him? Best 2-miler currently in the division.
He's possibly the best 2-miler in the division if you were running the champion chase anywhere other than Cheltenham. But as much as, if he goes and wins today, you're going to realistically have to take a price sub 3.0 for the Champion Chase, which is a short price to be taking about a horse that's been beaten the guts of 40, 50 lengths in his 3 starts at the track. So as much as I can understand people are going to make the argument that he's a much more mature horse and he's a better horse than he was the last time he came to Cheltenham, which there's no doubt about, we still don't have any evidence to the contrary of that he actually can handle Cheltenham. And he'll be up against Marine Nationale, who's a Supreme winner and a Champion Chase winner.
And whatever happens, producer Dan Hussey will be backing Solness. I'm just going to wait for the private chat to flag. It'll be incoming. All right, we move on then. In the Clarence House. This is the Warfield Mares Hurdle at Ascot, the 140. So we started with a big one. We're now going back in ITV running order. 140 at Ascot. I'm sitting this one out, not for me. And Dan has pointed out that it's a good winner over Christmas. Quite right. Steve, take it away, sir, in the 140.
Yeah, tricky little race. I thought it was very interesting. There's a few of these that reoppose. Nurse Susan and Sunset Marquisa ran the last time at Sandown in a listed race. And for much of that race, Sunset Marquisa did look like she was going to win, or certainly beat Nurse Susan quite considerably. Then Nurse Susan somehow kicked in the closing stages and got up and won quite convincingly. I think it'd be a bit of a different story around Ascot. I think it was interesting that Sunset Marquisa was so wrong in the weights last time, but was still 3-1. And there was clear market confidence behind her and the Joe Tizard team clearly think that she's a bit better than handicap mark, because she could easily have run in a handicap. She's gone for this mare's race for obvious reasons, because it is a grade 2, so it's important for breeding down the line. And I think she travelled so well last time that she might just dominate this field again. Nurse Susan really does need them to go hardish, and although they didn't go hard early at Sandown, they got racing a fair way out. I'm not sure they will again. And I think 6.0, I think we can back Sunset Marquisa. I think that's a really good price.
Yeah, the official ratings are all over the shop here, Steve. Real.
Yeah, I mean, what I usually do in graded races is just look for the top rated and back it, because it always works out.
Andrew, who do you like?
Yeah, interesting race. This can completely see where Steve's coming from there. Wouldn't be keen on Nurse Susan on the drop down to just shy of the 2 miles myself, considering she was off the bridle halfway down the back at Sandown. Le Conquier is the interesting one here for Jamie Snowden. Obviously a novice running in kind of open mares company, has only ran the 2 times over hurdles, has been impressive both times, but you know, going and beating Charisma Cat at Newbury, this is a different kind of beast of horse she's going to have to run against on this occasion. And as we mentioned, ratings, she obviously does have a fair bit to find, considering she's only ran the twice and she's in, you know, she's a novice and probably going down the route of mare's novice company come the Cheltenham Festival. I just can't shake in my head Joyeuse winning the William Hill or the Old Betfair Hurdle around this time last year, beating lump sum 8 lengths. I know she was very well handicapped that day, and things haven't necessarily gone too right since. She hated chasing when beaten twice earlier this season. And I think she actually ran better than the finishing position would suggest when reverting to hurdles over this course and distance just prior to Christmas behind Willful, when she finished 9th down the field in that lucrative handicap hurdle. I think back in a smaller runner race, back in against mares only as well, I just thought she might be the one that was being slightly overlooked at 5.5 on the Matchbook Exchange. I just think she's one of these mares, very difficult horse to get right, but if she's on a going day, I think she could pick these up.
Hello, Dale, by the way, who's telling us it's like summer up north, -1. He thinks the favourite Gidley Park forecast in the Clarence House for him. Good luck, whoever you're backing this weekend. Good luck, Dale. Thanks for getting in touch. All right, the Peter Marsh. Interesting little renewal, this. I'm looking forward to it. I'll kick off because I didn't go on the last one. I think Imperial Saint was a price here. Steve's going to make a case for Johnny who I was close to, and I have been a few times. But that horse is a good bit shorter. 21.0 Imperial Saint. He was only just touched off at Aintree. Well, he was second at Aintree to Cruise Control when trying to dominate. Look, he can be a bit tricky at the start. I just think that he's unexposed over the distance, and he did kick on again over 3 mile. I think 3 mile 1 it is at Aintree. I take into account obviously the fact that he's got a great record at Aintree, so maybe that form over the 3 miles there is overblown. But I think he's well worth another go at the distance, and he was sent off favourite that day. All right, 2 efforts since have been a bit below par, but I don't think he is in love with Cheltenham necessarily for all he's run okay there before. 21.0 I thought was far too big for Imperial Saint, given he's unexposed over the distance. And I think he gets it. That seemed to be the case at Aintree. Steve, Johnny Who?
Oh, God, Johnny Who. Yeah, he always threatens, doesn't he? But he doesn't often deliver as much as he does. I think if ever he's going to win a race like this, it's going to be this weekend in the Peter Marsh, because there's bound to be a strong pace here. Mere Town and Confusion don't really know any other way of running. Royal Pagal pushes it along, who loves Haydock. And Johnny Who, he's got more than the ability to be able to pick these sort of horses up. Ascot last time he went close, albeit he was never likely to get there, but he was staying on all the time. He does stay very well. This horse who was 5th in the Irish National last season. So I think the fact that he's got guaranteed virtually a strong pace, a test of stamina in softish ground. I wouldn't go mad on him because I don't trust him, but he's got more than enough ability to win a race like this, and he should have a decent setup.
Yes, that's confirmed my exact thoughts on Johnny Who, and I wish you well. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the informed horse here in Confusion for Joe Parkinson and Sue Smith. Just a rapid improver this year. Unseated, actually, over this course and distance before making the absolute rout of the rehearsal chase at Newcastle. Won again at the Roland Merrick very easily in a small runner race at Wetherby on Stephen's Day. He's just one of these horses that you don't know. He's up to a mark of 145 now. I see Joe Parkinson, the co-trainer, has been coming out the last few days, having been given a Gold Cup entry for this horse, that could end up being the plan. I think that might be shooting for the stars a little bit too much, but at the same time, this is a yard that since Joe Parkinson's come on the licence is beginning to kind of go places. It was slightly marooned in the depths for a few years there, but they had 27 winners last year. They've already had 28 winners this season, and we're only in the middle of January, operating at a good strike rate, good prize money, and this has been their flag bearer. He's an uncomplicated horse. He jumps pretty well. As Steve said, he'll be on the pace. You'd like to hope that they won't get drawn into a pace battle with Martown, but I just feel you've got a horse that loves winning and is in a really progressive and good frame of mind at the moment. And as much as I can completely understand the case made for Johnny Who from an ability perspective, I could never shake what he did in the Kim Muir last year out of my mind, where, to be honest, I thought he completely dogged it against Daily Present. Now, I absolutely loved it, Tom, as you well know, considering I'm Paul Nolan's biggest fan. But it was a relatively inexcusable defeat from Johnny Who that day.
Yeah, it was more Johnny. Oh, nice. He really is, isn't he? But yeah, maybe. I didn't know about the Gold Cup entry for Confusion.
Yeah, no, Joe Parkinson has just been on. He's actually been on Racing TV a few times over the last couple of days. Saying that I think kind of shooting for the stars. I get the impression if tomorrow doesn't go particularly well that it will be Ultima bound. But if he goes and wins very easily again or puts in a big performance, it'll probably be in the mid 150s. Not a whole pile of other options that you can go to when that's the case. So you've got to enjoy the kind of the enthusiasm and the endeavour of a young man on the licence. And as I say, I think he's injected a fair bit of life into that yard in the last year or two.
He's bang on it, very much so. Right, the handicap chase at Ascot, we're all Vincenzo, 3.25. I guess, I don't know, is this the panic attack form? Yeah, I think it's fair enough. I know he's finished second a few times, but he's got to go very close, Steve.
Yeah, and he's just got extremely solid handicap form. Those races, those 2.5 mile handicap races before Christmas at Cheltenham, he finished second in both of them, first to Panic Attack and then Glengooly. And he's going to win one of these sort of races at some point. And this one looks perfect for him. The ground looks perfect. Sam Thomas has got an incredible strike rate this season. He's going at better than one in three in winners' strike rates. And then you go round the rest of them. Well, you talk about dogs. You've got Hitman in there. Bad only seems to want to do it round Kempton. Etalon is very hit and miss. And there just doesn't seem to be anything in my view that comes close to Vincenzo's recent form. So it's a bit boring. But I was expecting him to be a bit shorter in the betting than he is now. I think he's about 3.25. He'll be a fair bit shorter on approaching the off time, I think.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a bit shorter, Andrew.
Yeah, completely agree with everything Steve said there. He's kind of the rock solid option of this race. I wouldn't want to be potentially giving him too many more tries if he gets beaten on Saturday. My only worry with him is I thought he kind of hung in behind Glengooly at Cheltenham the last day in a race that he possibly could have won. But at the same time, you can flip that whatever way you'd like. He's only been put up £1 for a very solid effort. And there's an awful lot of horses in here that you'd be spending a long time trying to get to the bottom of in terms of what sort of mood or what sort of performance they're going to put up. Etalon was very good at Ascot just before Christmas, beating Scarface. Scarface doesn't necessarily want to win races. As Steve mentioned, Bad is, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And it just feels like it's a race that Vincenzo should be winning.
Yes, agreed. That's the team's team. Although we're not all out necessarily napping material. Right, we move on to a pretty competitive 3 mile handicap hurdle. Steve, I'll come back to you first of all.
Yeah, I am with Phantom of the Point, so I think it's very interesting runner. If I can just get the race up.
2:35 at Haydock, I should say. 2:35 at Haydock. You with the Pipe horse, Phantom of the Points.
Phantom of the Points, yeah, who I think is very interesting. Back over hurdles. Fell in a 2-runner race over fences last time, won by Fingal Bridge. Straight back over hurdles. And his hurdles form has been very good going into it. He was third over course and distance in a race that on the big Haydock Chase Day behind Electric Mason and Hartington. That's always a hugely competitive race, and that was a good effort first time up. If you go back to last season, he was winning round Wincanton and but also ran in decent races after that. So I think he's a horse who's got plenty of potential still for David Pipe, who I think is going to have a good day. The ground will be perfect. I think it's just going to be good to soft. That'd be perfect for him. I thought that heavy ground on his Chase debut wasn't ideal. And I just think he's a pretty reliable horse who likes Haydock.
Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to give Kintara a go here for Mel Rowley and Charlie Deutsch. Interesting horse, been pretty consistent over the years. Not necessarily getting too much relief from the handicapper, despite kind of 2 good runs without looking like he was winning at Aintree and Cheltenham this season. He seems to be a better horse in handicap hurdles rather than they tried going down the chasing route last year. Didn't really work out. But he'll be on the front end on a track that sometimes can suit those that are able to dictate on that hurdles track. And he seems to be pretty versatile with track, with with ground. And I think he's a likable horse. Sorry, voice going on me there. I think he's a likable horse. You know what you're going to get from him. I was interested in Heather Honey. I'm just not sure. I know he's won over 3 mile 1 at Catterick, but sometimes his stamina looks to ebb out in the last furlong or two. It certainly did at Aintree, and it did at Doncaster the last day behind Romeo Brown. So that would be slightly on my list of negatives for him. But I thought Kintara had more positives then plenty of these, and he's in there kind of 8.0. He's a nice enough price.
I have similar stamina concerns for a KRLN to an extent, but equally, I think that's half the reason he's the price he is, and I'm willing to chance him at 13.0. He got one of those rides that they looked into at a massive price at Uttoxeter over 3 miles, and then Julie went and won at 34.0 the next start with Benjamin Macy on board, who's been on board the last few times. At Aintree, he was up there throughout. This was in October. He ran okay, but a couple of them came from the rear and went on past him. And then last time I thought it shaped as though he wanted to return to 3 miles when I thought he looked set for fourth and then ran on again towards the line. So, he's not had many goes at the trip, and I'm willing to give him another go over it off the back of that run at Wetherby, where I thought he looked like he wanted to return to 3 miles. And it wasn't a race where I had anything concrete at the top of the market. So 13.0 a KRLN was of enough interest for a yard that are going along again quite nicely, and you got John Joe Neal Jr. back on board. The next is the last we're doing. This is the 253 at Ascot. Andrew, back to you first of all.
Yeah, going to give Surrey Lord a go in this. Another kind of progressive horse. Hard to know just whether we've gotten to the bottom of him just yet. He won twice over 2 miles at Fossflass and Kempton early part of this season. Then was found out kind of back at a mile 7 at Wincanton. It's pretty sharp around there. But then was step up to 2 mile 5 at Kempton on Stephen's Day and won, beating King of the Road. He's put up another £6. He's now off 118. But he comes into this race a slightly better type of race off a nice racing weight, 10 stone 6. Toby Laws has done a very, very good job with this horse. Kevin Brogan gets on very well with him. Just, as I say, there's an element of feeling of, I don't think he's unexposed over this kind of intermediate trip. His first time trying it at Kempton, hit the line very strongly. Drops a furlong in trip here. I just think he's got a very good chance. And I'm kind of hoping that it's a Saturday for progressive horses with Confusion and Surrey Lord now in the handicap hurdle.
I'll stick up a Favois with Harry Skelton back on. Now, they might be working back for an Imperial Cup. I don't know. I'm obviously falling into the trap of second-guessing Dan Skelton and him being such a good target trainer. And maybe that is the case. He was beating a nose there last year off 136, but lines up here of 132. And he was sent off a big price before that race with Heidi Palin on board. And then Harry Skelton got on and he went very close. Heidi's been on board the last 3 starts. He's been a big price. And like I say, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree and should be waiting. But of 132 with Harry Skelton back on board, I feel like he's got to. When Harry gets back on the horse, he often goes very close. And I feel that's happened a couple of times. I feel like it's worth having a go at 7.0, definitely, because you know he's capable of this sort of mark. He was only beaten 4 3/4 lengths in the county hurdle a couple of years back now. So, I thought it was worth a go at 7.0. Steve?
Yeah, thanks for your help. That's not a message for you, Tom, but it's the tip of... and it's another David Pipe horse. It's in the colours of JP McManus. Harry Cobden riding, presumably. That we're going to see a fair bit more of that in the spring and from the future. And this is a horse who hasn't run particularly great the last twice, but first time up at Newbury over 3 miles, I thought that probably just needed the run. And then 2.5 miles on good ground around Windsor was always likely to be a bit sharp, because this is a horse who has won over 3 miles. And if you go back to the spring, this, thanks for your help, won a hugely competitive handicap at the Punchestown Festival, which isn't an easy thing to do. I thought it's interesting that when he started wearing cheek pieces, which is what he usually does, way back in February of 2023, he won at Chepstow, and he won quite convincingly. Last time at Windsor, I did think that maybe a switch of headgear would help. Thanks for your help. And that's what he gets today. He gets blinkers on. He's got Harry Cobden on, and I think he's well enough handicapped to win this race in soft ground, which should be ideal. So I think he finds 2 miles 4 a little bit sharp when it's decent ground on a sharp track, but soft ground on a stiffer track, I think that's going to be ideal. I really fancy Thanks for your help. For the help, sorry.
You got there. You got there.
In the end.
Thanks for the help, Steve. Incidentally, if you were looking for our Supreme trial, Rossington Main preview, we didn't have a bet in it because you've got a shorty in there, and we didn't fancy one, so we're not going to put anything up for no reason. So we skipped past that. All right. Any other bets on the weekend? Yes, for both of you, not for me. Andrew, first of all.
Yeah, 2 for me. One at Haydock in the opener, the 12:15, a horse called Throat Lash for Donald McCain, Brian Hughes and Jimmy Fife, who's been an enormous horse, over 17 hands, and has really improved for going chasing this year. Looked an awkward novice hurdler last season, but won at Wetherby, won really impressively at Aintree last time out, beating a few in-form rivals. I think he'll take an awful lot of beating, and then one for the purists out there in the 150 at Navan and 0 to 100, called Johnny Cakes for Philip Rothwell and Tiernan Power Roach. Mark 88 has been kind of coming to the boil of this type of mark. Was third the last day at Fairy House. He just will win one of these races, and I'm kind of trying to keep him on side. He won one last year. I think he's been kind of primed to get back to a mark where he can win again, and I think he has found that mark in the 150 at Navan.
All right. And Steve, couple for you, bud.
Yeah, 1 o'clock at Ascot. Cap there, who jumped beautifully when winning on his chase debut at Taunton. And he made a strange early mistake at Kempton that just knocked him off his stride a little bit. But his rest of his jumping was very good. And he travelled so well at Kempton over Christmas. Finished third to Viroflay in that contest and was taken on for the lead, but was still there going to the second last when he was a bit sticky. But I still think that this horse is going to develop into a really smart chaser, and he'll get on the front end hopefully, and the softer ground will help him. So Cap Ver has been ignored a little bit. I think he's about 10.0 or something like that in the 1 o'clock at Ascot. And then in the 3:10 at Haydock, big field handicap, I like the chances of a horse that I want to call Washertock, but was that okay? And Phil Kirby, another horse who travels really, really well. And since joining Phil Kirby, he hasn't had an awful lot of chances over hurdles. It's running okay on the flat, but then returned to hurdles, had previously been with Gavin Cromwell and Kerry Lee, and ran well at Wetherby and then won at Newcastle. They got the timing a little bit wrong at Wetherby because he was in the rear and then he was dashed up and went clear going to 3 out, just got there too soon. And last time at Catterick was second to Soldier of the Storm, who was very heavily backed on that occasion for the O'Neill. So I think to finish second to that one, clear of the rest, was another good performance. A big field handicap like this could be perfect and just travel into it. So was that okay in the 3:10? Big price, I think, as well.
All right, Matchbook Zero long shot goes live an hour before each race. It's a win-only bet, but you're most likely to get best odds with zero margin, zero commission, and the fact that it's an exchange already. Mine is Imperial Saints at 21.0 in the Peter Marsh. Steve, yours?
Thanks for the help.
And that's in the... yes, it is. Thanks for the help, isn't it? Yes.
253. Yeah, Ask. I did change. Sorry to confuse it.
Quite right. All right. Thanks for the help in the 253. And Andrew.
Yeah, I'd in the 1 o'clock at Ascot. Steve was just previewing that race for Hughie Morrison. Just step back up to 3 miles. I thought he might have been a little bit overlooked in the market. He should be a double figure price when the prices come through.
All right, best bets. We've got 3 here for our best bets. Stick with a treble. Vincenzo for me in the 320 at 3.25 in the 220 at Ascot. Vincenzo. Steve.
Well, it does say Phantom of the Points there. I do like, but I'm going Sunset Marquisa in the 140. Sorry to be a pain, but
Oh, that's
that
good.
from the front travels well, dropped in distance. I think will reverse the form of Nurse Susan.
Sunset Marquisa in the Warfield, and Andrew.
Yeah, throat lash for me for Don McCain and Brian Hughes, 12.15 at Haydock, novice handicap chase.
So stick it in the treble. This is a £5 risk-free bet, effectively. You stick those 3 in the treble, have a £5 on it. If it doesn't cop, you get your money back. If it does, woohoo! You can go collect. So do that. The T's and C's on the websites for new and existing customers. Stick those 3 in a £5 treble. There you go. What are you pointing at? What are you pointing at, Steve?
Well, it's changed on the ticker. Our producer's very slick, and I was just pointing out he's done a good job.
He's very good, isn't he? There. Yeah. Yes. Thanks, everyone. That was fun. If you missed Steve pointing because you're listening, you've missed out. So try and watch next time. And
I should have got one of those big hands that Kenny Everett used to have.
Yeah. Andrew will not know who Kenny Everett is. Will he?
Yeah,
he absolutely lost
probably
on me,
died
yeah.
about 20 years before you were born, sadly.
Yeah, not a clue. Not a clue. There we are. Good. We'll see you in 2 weeks for a DRF preview. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.